Hello and welcome to Assembly Update. I'm Audrey Pitcher here today with Assemblyman Jeffrey Dinowitz from the 81st Assembly District in the Bronx. Assemblyman, thank you for joining us today.
Great to be back again.
Now, we just heard from Governor Hochul, her budget address for the 2027 fiscal year. Obviously, there were quite a few important earmarks in there. What are you in particular interested in?
Well, first of all, the budget is the largest budget ever, as the New York Post would say, and it's actually the largest budget ever every single year, because from year to year the budget goes up, if for no other reason than there's inflation. So this budget that she's proposing, the executive budget, is approximately $260 billion. A lot of money, more than $250 billion. There's significant increases in Medicaid funding, a very significant increase actually. Increase, of course, in education funding, and then a major feature of it is addressing the child care issue, which was highlighted in last year's elections, but actually was something that we've been looking towards doing, and the governor was looking at even before that election. But that's going to take a chunk of money to start financing. But if this will be phased in over a period of years, and it's really very important, as we discussed last week. But there are also other things in the budget, or not in the budget as the case may be. The governor is not proposing any tax increases at the moment. There's a lot of agitation from some quarters to raise taxes on the wealthy and the super wealthy. That is not something she's proposing in the executive budget. But there's been a significant increase in revenue, in good part, in fact, because of the money generated thanks to Wall Street bonuses, because the stock market did well in 2025, and so that helps a lot. And then there are some things she's proposed, such as freezing for the next year tuition at the state university. She wants to eliminate taxes on tips, and one of the things that's delayed her budgets in the past few years has been her tendency to put a lot of policy issues, which are not actually budget issues, but putting them into the budget bills, and that causes a lot of the delay in discussion, because there's disagreement over those issues, and before we even get to the dollars and cents, we have to resolve those. There seemed to be less of that this year, which I'm very pleased about. But one thing she is including, which certainly doesn't have to be part of the budget, is the extension of mayoral control of the New York City schools. And she's proposing a 4-year extension. That has not happened. I don't think we've had a 4-year extension of mayoral control. Now, interestingly, our new mayor during the campaign was against keeping mayoral control, but he changed his position at some point after the campaign, so presumably now is supportive of this. And a 4-year mayoral control means that we will not have to revisit the issue during his term. And whether people like mayoral control or not, becomes a political football every time it's up for renewal, and we'll see what happens with that. So those are some of the things in the budget that she's proposing.
Now, you mentioned mayoral control. What are the effects of that in the city?
I think it's a little hard to evaluate whether mayoral control has been a success or not. I think most people are supportive of it, and were supportive when it was first, it became an issue in the early Bloomberg years. Mayoral control means that the Department of Education is, in essence, a city agency, whereas in the past, the Board of Education was, I don't want to say independent, but was, I'll call it quasi-independent. There was actually an appointed board, people who were appointed by the mayor, by the borough presidents, and they made certain decisions. And then we had the local school boards at the same time. The school boards are gone. Now we have these community education councils, which have virtually no power. On a city level, we have the Panel for Education Priorities, PEP, which has very little power, because If a mayor doesn't like what they're about to do, he can just replace many of the people on this panel. So it's direct control. Has it been a success? I don't know. I mean, reading scores can sure use improvement. So I don't know how you judge success. But what would I think are signs that we have to do some things a little differently? Reading scores and math scores in New York City are inadequate, and we have a very bloated budget. While I always fight for more funding for schools, I certainly wish that they would be put into the classrooms. We have a bureaucracy that never stops growing, and we have a lot of very highly paid people. And if I asked anybody who do they think is the highest paid employee of the city of New York, many people would say, well, it's the mayor, of course. The answer is no, that is not correct. The highest paid employee, as far as I know, of the city of New York is actually the chancellor of the Department of Education, whose salary, I think, may be almost double that of the mayor. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, although I think it's a little excessive, but it shows the salaries that are given out in the Department of Education, and not that somewhat lower salaries for the top echelon people will change the world, but it would certainly set an example. The people on the front lines, I think, are the people who we have to support in every way that we can. So I think we have a lot of work to do, but the reading scores and the math scores, bad. I mean, too many kids are just not, they're just not up to where they should be. And that's, it goes up, it goes down. But overall, there's a very significant number of children who are not attaining those scores that we need.
Absolutely. Now, going back to the budget, are there any other priorities that you wished Governor Hochul had addressed a bit more in her address?
Yes. I'll give you a perfect example. The governor, and I think I've mentioned this before, the governor vetoed one of the best bills ever, one of my bills, creating an Office of the State Utility Consumer Advocate, which, once up and running, would inevitably save utility consumers, which is all of us, money, because it would result in electric bills that either would be lower or at least not go up as rapidly as they have been. And she vetoed that bill. To me, it's inexplicable. It was a bad move. I think it was a bad move both on the merits and, frankly, politically. But she did talk about addressing the issue of high utility bills, which I'm very happy about. But I think one excellent way to do that is to put that legislation that I wrote, and it's being carried in, and we have a Senate sponsor, obviously, into the budget and enact it through the budget in order to, that would be a way to show that she is fighting for the utility consumers in New York State. What do we get complaints about? We get so many complaints, but in terms of cost, it's the high cost of housing and the high cost of electricity. Those are the two things, even more so than the bill at the supermarket. And I'm hoping, and I'm going to push to get that into the budget, because we got to do something about these electric rates.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, affordability has been a huge issue and sort of standard of living, and we've sort of seen that reflected in things like the nurses' strike recently. What's the situation like on the ground there?
The nurses in 3 of the big hospital systems in New York are on strike. Several hospitals settled, but they've been on strike for over a week now. And the nurses are, what are their demands? Well, I mean, salary is always part of it, but it's much more than that. It's the health care coverage. It's safety in the workplace, which is actually a big issue for many of the nurses. Also, the patient-nurse ratio. When the nurses are on strike and fighting, it's not just for themselves. It's actually really for the patients. It's really for the patients. And if you ever did a survey, and there have been surveys, and you ask the general public which profession do they think most highly of? It's not elected officials. It's not hospital administrators. It's nurses. Nurses, I think, are people who command the most support and respect in the general public. So several days ago, I went to the picketing in front of Montefiore Hospital in my district, along with the borough president, Vanessa Gibson, council member Eric Dinowitz, and State Senator Natalia Fernandez and other electeds. And we stood with them and we spoke on their behalf because we really believe that, that they're in the right. And I'm not attacking or condemning the hospital. Montefiore is a great hospital and is the biggest employer in the entire Bronx. I'm not even condemning the top administrators who do quite well with their salaries, to say the least. I want to see a fair contract. I want to see it settled, and I want to see it done as quickly as possible. And what Montefiore has done is they brought in nurses from the outside who are being paid a significant amount of money, and I'm sure they're very good nurses. I mean, but they're not the Montefiore nurses. And one of the issues they raised, by the way, is that the conditions at Montefiore are not nearly as good as some of the other hospitals in the Montefiore system, including those in Westchester. The truth is, Montefiore is overcrowded. There are often patients waiting in the hallways and stuff like that without easy access to a bathroom. And there are conditions that are just unacceptable. And I know Montefiore, as I said, it's a great hospital, but on this score, they have to do better, and they have to negotiate a fair and decent contract with the nurses. So I stand with the nurses.
Absolutely. We've definitely seen a lot of policy changes and policy proposals aimed to support people who are trying to get into the healthcare field and sort of retain those personnel as well. Have you seen any movement in policy for this year that would sort of influence that?
I haven't seen big budget proposals on that score, but a lot can happen between now and then, both in terms of the budget and also legislatively. I mean, we have had some successes in recent years, particularly in dealing with the patient-to-nurse ratio. You know, there's only so many patients that a nurse could handle without not being able to do the job the way we would want them to. And so we have had some successes, but I think, I mean, I got to hand to these nurses. Some of these people are out on the picket line every day, and we've had some of the coldest weather we've had in a long time.
Absolutely.
And I admire them for that. I admire them for the work that they do, and I think we have to fight for them and stand with them.
We certainly look forward to talking more about that. Hopefully that will be resolved soon. And we look forward to talking with you more about the budget as the session continues. So thank you for joining us today.
Okay, thank you.